Ever notice how certain men move through the world without pursuing women, yet somehow women seem magnetically pulled toward them? They don't plead, they don't perform, they don't over-explain, negotiate, or chase. Their presence alone shifts the dynamic. Their silence carries weight, their decisions are firm, their posture communicates more confidence than another man's entire speech. Women don't chase them because they're lucky, or because they're wealthy. Women chase them because these men embody psychological patterns that trigger deep, instinctive attraction. This isn't mystery, it's mechanics. Today, I'm breaking down the 8 psychological traits that make certain men irresistible without trying, and how you can internalize them, not as tactics, but as a new way of existing. Lock in. This is how men who don't chase think, live, and operate. 1. They have options, and women can feel it. Here's a truth most men spend their entire lives avoiding. The man who doesn't chase can afford not to chase. He's not afraid of losing her. He's not terrified of silence. He's not crippled by the idea that she might walk away. Because deep down, he knows something weaker men don't. He is replaceable to no one, but everyone else is replaceable to him. That doesn't mean he's arrogant. It means he understands abundance. Not abundance of women, abundance of self, of direction, of purpose, of identity. Women feel this instantly. You don't have to say a word. Your tone changes. Your posture shifts. Your silence becomes meaningful, rather than anxious. Men who chase always operate from the same inner script. If I lose her, I won't find someone like her again. That's not romance. That's fear. And fear suffocates attraction. A man with options lives by a different internal law. If she leaves, my life will remain full, and someone else will eventually step into the space she frees. This is abundance, and abundance doesn't come from numbers. It comes from self-sufficiency. A man with options radiates psychological freedom, and women crave the experience of entering the life of a man who doesn't need them but chooses them. Most men mistake this point completely. They think options means juggling multiple women. It doesn't. Options mean you are whole by yourself. Options mean you can walk away, because your life has weight. Options mean your purpose is stronger than your emotional impulses. A man who needs no woman naturally attracts better women, because freedom is attractive, neediness is not. And that brings us to trait number 2, the engine behind all genuine masculine abundance. 2. They focus on improving themselves, not impressing women. A man who doesn't chase is not idle. While most men invest their time chasing women, these men invest their time building themselves. They understand a law of nature. When you develop into the man women want, you don't have to pursue anything. You become the gravitational center. Women don't fall for words, they fall for energy, specifically the energy of a man who is going somewhere in life. A man running toward a goal doesn't look back to see who's following him. His ambition pulls him forward, his discipline builds his character, his direction sharpens his aura, and a sharp aura is magnetic. Men who chase are always asking, how do I get her to like me? Men who don't chase ask, how do I become a man who cannot be ignored? Every workout, every book, every skill mastered, every accomplishment, every piece of progress, internal or external, creates a psychological signature that women register instantly. A built man, a disciplined man, a mentally sharp man, a man with emotional control, a man with goals. These qualities communicate more attraction than any line, trick, or tactic ever could. And here's the deeper truth. A man obsessed with his evolution becomes unpredictable, and unpredictability ignites curiosity. But this is where many men sabotage themselves. They improve themselves to impress women, not to strengthen their character. They become performers, not powerhouses. Building yourself for her makes you weak. Building yourself for you makes you unstoppable. And once you've built a baseline of inner value, something interesting happens. Women start investing, which leads us to trait number 3. 3. They let women invest first. This is one of the most misunderstood psychological principles in male-female dynamics. Humans value what they must invest in. They disrespect what is handed to them freely. This is not manipulation. This is human nature. Men who don't chase understand that when you rush to give attention, validation, affection, and effort Before she's earned any of it, you create emotional imbalance. You give her the experience of being desired without giving yourself the experience of being valued. And here's what most men never learn. When you invest too early, you eliminate her motivation to invest at all. So these men step back. They don't smother. They don't overgive. They don't push. They create space. Not because they're cold, not because they're trying to play games, but because they respect their energy. They let women make the first meaningful move. She reaches out. She asks to see him. She suggests plans. She checks in. She invests. And once she invests, even a little, she becomes emotionally committed. Women bond through effort, not through convenience. Men who don't chase simply understand a fundamental truth of psychology. If she invests nothing, she feels nothing. If she invests something, she feels something. If she invests deeply, she feels deeply. Let her invest. Let her wonder. Let her earn your consistency. Let her show up before you give her the world. This is balance, and balance is what makes a connection stable. But once she invests, once you've sparked her interest, that is when the next trait becomes your greatest advantage. 4. They disappear at the right moment. This trait separates the men who merely attract interest from the men who create obsession. Men who don't chase understand a truth about attraction that most men never consider. Attention creates comfort. Absence creates tension. Tension multiplies desire. Women are emotional processors. When you disappear, their mind fills the silence with questions, and questions turn into feelings. Did I say something wrong? Why hasn't he replied? Is he losing interest? Where did he go? Did someone else catch his attention? This emotional uncertainty is not manipulation, it's psychological contrast, and contrast fuels desire. But here's the key. These men don't disappear to punish. They disappear to preserve mystery. Mystery is oxygen to attraction. Over-communication suffocates it. The man who is always available becomes predictable. Predictability becomes routine. Routine becomes emotional numbness. Men who don't chase understand this instinctively. They give just enough to anchor her desire, then step back and allow tension to build. This isn't game playing, it's self-respect. A man with a real life, real work, real goals, real discipline, real purpose naturally disappears, because his life is bigger than any one romantic pursuit. And when a man disappears into his purpose, a woman's imagination chases him. But absence alone isn't enough to maintain attraction. You must pair it with the trait number 5. 5. They are unpredictable in the best way. Predictability is the death of desire. When a woman can map out your next move, your next text, your next reaction, she stops feeling anything. Emotion thrives on uncertainty. The unknown pulls attention. The unexpected sparks curiosity. Men who don't chase are unpredictable, not because they're chaotic, but because they're multi-dimensional. They are not one version of themselves. One day he's focused, deep in work. The next he's charismatic and playful. Another day he's quiet, introspective. Another he's bold, spontaneous. Not fake, not forced, just real. Because real men have layers. Most men are one-dimensional. They have a narrow emotional range and a simple behavioural pattern. Text, wait, follow, agree, repeat. Unpredictability doesn't mean instability. It means variety, depth, texture, and authenticity. A man with passion, purpose, commitments, interest, and standards will naturally be unpredictable, because his life is unpredictable. Here's the truth. Women don't fall for men they fully understand. They fall for men who evoke emotion they can't fully explain. But unpredictability works only when paired with the next trait, the one that commands respect without a single word. 6. They treat their time as sacred. Every man says he values his time. Very few behave like it. Men who don't chase have a different relationship with time than the average man. They guard it, they structure it, they invest it, they protect it, They don't waste it. When your time has weight, you have weight. A man who values his time doesn't cancel his plans because a woman texted him last minute. He doesn't pause his entire life for a maybe. He doesn't stare at his phone waiting for her to reply. He doesn't operate on her timeline. He moves on his own. Women test this constantly, not intentionally, but instinctively. A late reply, a last-minute cancellation, a vague plan, a small attitude shift. Most men collapse instantly. They apologize, overcompensate, and beg for attention. But the man who doesn't chase, he simply says, "All good, reach out when you're sure." Then he returns to his mission, not cold, not angry, not reactive, just grounded. When a man's time is scarce, it becomes valuable. When it's valuable, she respects it. When she respects it, her attraction grows. And once she respects your time, the next step becomes natural. She respects your boundaries. 7. They set boundaries and enforce them quietly. Boundaries define a man's identity. Men who don't chase understand a truth. Most men never internalize. Without boundaries, you are not a man. You are a service. These men know what they will and will not tolerate. Disrespect, manipulation, inconsistency, flakiness, emotional games, entitlement, disregard. They don't argue about boundaries. They don't explain boundaries. They don't negotiate boundaries. They enforce them, not loudly, not aggressively, not emotionally. They enforce them with action and distance. When a woman crosses a line, they don't yell. They don't complain. They don't lecture. They withdraw. And withdrawal is more powerful than confrontation because it removes what she values. This creates instant clarity. This man won't tolerate disrespect. This man doesn't need me. This man values himself. This man lives by standards. A boundary is not a rule for others. It's a rule for yourself. And when you live by your own rules, a woman feels safer, more attracted, and more grounded around you. Because boundaries are masculine structure, and structure creates emotional safety. This leads us to the final trait, the one that ties all the others together. 8. They lead. Naturally, not forcefully. Men who don't chase are leaders, not because they dominate, not because they boss people around, not because they shout louder than others, but because their life has direction. Leadership is calm certainty. It's composed decision-making. It's inner stability. It's the ability to move forward without asking for validation. A leader doesn't say, "What do you want to do?" A leader says, "I have a plan. Join if you want." Women don't chase weakness. They chase direction. They chase certainty. They chase purpose. A man who leads is not performing masculinity. He is embodying it. He doesn't ask for respect. He earns it by how he carries himself. When he walks into a room, people feel his presence. When he speaks, people listen because he speaks from clarity, not insecurity. Leadership isn't loud. Leadership is grounded, and this is the real secret. A man who leads never chases because he's already moving towards something greater than her, his mission. Women don't want to be your mission. They want to join your mission. That is why the men who don't chase always end up with the most devoted women. The final truth. Men who don't chase are not emotionless. They're not cold. They're not closed off. They're not arrogant. They are grounded, purpose-driven, disciplined, selective, self-respecting, hard to sway, hard to tempt, hard to manipulate. They have mastered themselves. And that mastery is what women are drawn to. The goal is not to avoid women. The goal is not to hate women. The goal is not to create psychological games. The goal is to become the type of man whose presence is enough. A man whose silence communicates value. A man whose decisions are firm. A man whose time is expensive. A man whose path is set. A man who leads himself and therefore can lead others. Before you chase anyone, ask the only question that matters. Am I the kind of man she would chase? If the answer is no, then your work is not in pursuing her. It's in building you.